thing that came up mostly, and I think the thing that's going to come up for a lot of these guys, is that our intent was to have a house with a family that loved us and a community that we contributed to. That was what we grew up wanting to have. Something happened along the way where we became the symbol of mockery for other people. Other people passed by and said, "Look at that, you don't want to be like him, right?" That's the part where I'm going to tell these guys, it's going to hurt a lot to see yourself and see how people mocked you and see where you ended up at. So in order for us to be able to heal that and get past that in this literature, we're going to have to deal with that shame, because that's what it is. I took my life of crime. I took my life of oppression and rage and anger, what they did to my familia, right? I took all of that and I turned it into literature. And if somebody comes up to me and says to me, "Is this true or not? Is this true, Santiago? Did you go over here and do that?" I'm going to say, that's a short story. Is it a good short story? If it's a good short story and you like it, then it's true. I'm asking you all to try to become real with yourself and respect yourselves. This is not about crime. This is not about you being tecatos. It's about you being human beings, and somewhere along the line, something happened to make you not feel okay with yourselves anymore. How come we're not speaking up? How come we're so humble? How come we're okay just to sit back and let everybody else make the choices for us? There's a time not to be humble. There's a time to speak up, right? And the guards ain't your enemies. I used to always think they were my enemy. I used to think the judge was my enemy. You know who was my worst enemy? But there's something really beautiful about myself too. Once I got past all that stuff, I started finding out how really beautiful I was. It's incredible, it's incredible. It's just amazing. So we're gonna try to do that in our writing workshop, okay? It's gonna be a really good feeling, all right? There'll be none of this, we're gonna write about the drugs and their effects and what we thought about them, but I'm gonna show you how not to glorify that and how to deal with the real deal, okay? How to get yourself grounded, okay? It's gonna be really great, because you're the ones that are gonna be teaching me. I'm just gonna show you what you already know.
I had no sympathy for them in the sense that I was naively portraying them as victims, because I knew they had done a lot of things bad to a lot of people, that they had preyed on innocent people. And I wanted them to admit that. I wanted them to admit that they had damaged a lot of people, that they had hurt a lot of people, that they had exploited a lot of people. And then I wanted them to try to get to a place where they could forgive themselves for that. But I didn't particularly like them or dislike them. I was looking for them to do something for themselves.
¿Cómo estás? That was a good motel last night, brother.
Did you stay there?
Oh, yeah, hombre.
Did you okay?
Yeah, hombre, it was beautiful.
Talk to him. Said he was going to help you out.
Right on, bro.
In Chester. That's probably one of the nicest ones.
That's right on.
He was suggesting that we use like a round formation type of deal.
Okay.
We got some tables. What we plan on doing them is putting sort of where inmates are looking in. We could probably go around within the circle.
That's fine. That's fine, Anthony. No problem. I am so glad I'm not back in prison, I'll tell you that.
For a long time after I came out of prison, I never wanted to go back into another prison. And it was the first time in a long time that I'd committed myself to going back into that prison, because in the time that I had spent in prison, most of the convicts that I knew were lost causes. They didn't care about people, they didn't care about cleaning themselves up. The only thing they cared about was doing drugs.
The reason that you're here in this joint, it's not because they put you here, okay? You put yourself here, and I'll tell you how. A long time ago, somewhere when you were growing up, in your head and in your heart, you already had put yourself in prison. You already put yourself in there. Because what happened out here, what happens out here, already happened in here. And I knew when I was going to school and I sat in the back of the room and I didn't know how to read or write, but I had camaradas like all of you guys, and my camaradas would tell me, ¿Sabes qué, Santiago? Yo te voy a encontrarte allá para la tienda. And I said, all right. So I'd go back over there. Something inside me already had put me in prison. And it was just like, go through the formal procedure of picking up the tickets, right? Somebody put that inside me. Because it would have been completely different if I would have if I would have been like other kids and said, well, your ticket is to get an A in this biology class. But that wasn't where the onda was. Before I went to prison, I already knew I was going to go to prison. It was just the way it was. Now, I asked myself this question. Why, who put that inside me? Why was I already in prison in myself? Right? I remember the very first time I ever took drugs. How many of you remember the very, very, very first time you took drugs? Very first time.
There was a trust there that I could work with in the beginning. And I exploited that trust. I asked them, you're going to have to be real with me. I don't want to waste my time. This is not a game. I'm here specifically to try to do some work with you in writing in the hopes that it'll change your life. That the writing itself will become a mirror that reflects things that you've done and said that you can change.
There's nothing that you can't write that's going to shock me. I just want to know, where was that initial moment that made you say, I don't give a shit about myself, let's go, vámonos. ¿Entiendes? See, that's a great way of starting it, bro. Act like you're writing to your son or your daughter, saying, te voy a decir la verdad, this is the truth, and this is the way it went down. I'm not a bad man, this is what happened.
I was 14 years old the first time I put a needle in my arm. 14, 28. It was 1 week after my 14th birthday, the first time I ever stuck a needle in my arm. It was also the very first time I'd ever seen or done cocaine. I remember being at the dope house. I felt out of place and I was scared because I knew what I was about to do. The guy who fixed me said, I never did this if anything happens to him. The high was so intense, I can't describe it, but we landed up in juvenile hall that night for grand theft auto with about a 16th of coke that we did in there. I was out the next day on my first offense, and my friend did 2 years in the boys' school because he was on parole. And here I am 11 years later.
The pressures of growing up on my own in a dysfunctional atmosphere brought me a lot of hurt in my life, and I started to show it in my actions, acting up everywhere I went, fighting at school, running with the gangs, and eventually experimenting with drugs and alcohol. And as a young kid, most of my family and friends started to recognize it. They all started to talk, telling me I was no good and not to be trusted. The only place for me was in jail, prison, or dead.
Once one of the guys who reads a poem realizes other people care about what he's writing, that it's meaningful, that of it in itself gets the guy to want to write more and to get more deeply involved with the work and so on and so forth. So it's showing the person that the person has meaning in his life. And when he writes that meaning down on a piece of paper and other people listen to it and give him feedback, not in a therapeutic way, not in a professor-student way, but in a human being way, he's telling his story and the other people are listening to it intently. That does something for the individual who wrote the piece that motivates him, that compels him to want to write more.
I completely lose myself in the poem, and when you lose yourself that much in a piece of work, something happens to the person who's watching you. If you're not aware of the person, when you come out of the poem, you realize everybody else was with you in the poem. Equally so, if you're not in the poem, if you're aware that someone's looking at you while you read, they're going to recognize that también, and it's going to take that much away from your poem. So to the degree that you go into reading what you're reading is the degree that the person listening to you will go into what you're reading with you. So you are the captain of the ship. You run, you kind of go which way you're going to go with it, okay?
Well, my pieces are like emotional and hard, though.
Then go for it, carnal.
They make me cry, and I do feel it, you know what I'm saying?
That's right. You should go for it, porque mira, you can't control how other people that are listening to your work, you have no control over how they were taught and what schools they were taught, how they were brought up, whether they were brought up rich or poor, racist or non-racist. You have no control over that. But one thing I know for sure, without a doubt, is that if you give your heart to something that you're reading, I know without a doubt that even the most corrupted and warped racist, or anybody else for that matter, can't but help feel it with you.
Because my uncle was drunk and really out of control. The vato really, I don't have, because of the vato now, I don't have a father today. And won't have one. I have a stepfather, pero my father was the one person that would push me into believing that I was going to become something or somebody. When I grew up and graduated, I didn't even make it out of high school. They threw me out of school. Once my father died, I lost all hope and faith. I started to do what I wanted in life. But if I could go back in time, it would be that hour and that night. And him is, I would still have my Efito here by my side. I probably wouldn't be here in this jail and graduate if he were still around.
The transformations were amazing because they began to see themselves not as convicts or gangbangers, but as individual human beings who had made the wrong choices very early on in their childhood. The transformation was forgiveness. The transformation was vulnerability. The transformation was to put the mask down and take themselves serious, and to actually question themselves whether they really did have a purpose in life.
Does it bring back memories? Makes me want to cry. Not so much because of the people that are here, but what it represents. The children that are abandoned, the families that are broken, the addiction, the sorrow, the hurt, the pain, the corruption of the courts, that whole thing. Yeah. The culture, It's a culture of destruction and culture of grief and culture of one losing one's head and all that stuff. Yeah, it does bring back memories. 21 years institutionalized, it should. It just keeps coming back in different ways, You keep looking at a flower in 1,000 ways. And I keep blossoming. I am the flower. I blossom in the ice.
I was so young when you first came into my life, taking my pain with the precision of the sharpest knife. I still don't understand how you chose me for that which you have planned, but since that first shot, my life was destined to be damned. When I would seek you, you'd readily be found. You'd take away all my pain and misery, even though after I'd end up on the ground. To me, that was the greatest feeling I could ever have imagined, always taking with you the drama that just happened. I want you to know that you really weren't the way, but if anything were to happen to me, I want you to be the one to take my last breath away.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon stage and is heard no more. It's a story told by an idiot, full of sound and fury that signifies nothing. But don't let it pass you by. If I could turn back the hands of time, I probably wouldn't change a thing. Maybe just sit and reflect on life's true, real meaning. But life is nothing like a dream, my friend. Guaranteed you'll wake up praying for peace eternally when you know your turn of life is up.
When you get these kind of men together, I was just extraordinarily interested in exploring avenues that might unlock their addiction to the possibility of curing themselves, understanding where it originated from, what was that initial impulse to do drugs to cover up a feeling that they couldn't manage, that they couldn't cope with. And in a workshop setting, when you have men going back and forth, it reinforces and supports each of them in a way where they take bigger and bigger chances, larger and larger risk, so that we might just stumble upon some insight, some enlightenment that allow them to hold on to it so that they can have hope of sobriety one day without living without drugs.
Antonio Pena, 20. Josh, 21. Chavez, 25.
Out of the 20 or so that I had originally, I think I had 5 or 6 or 7 left. And that was a triumph, that they had stayed that long with me for 6 months. A lot of them just felt they were getting too close to feelings that were too painful and decided to opt out before they had to confront those feelings.
Through this workshop, writing, and it's about opening up, letting people know who I am, and reaching out for help.
Spiritually, my mind, my heart, my soul was open through my writing. I wrote about a pencil, how my pencil was, you know, it brought out what I had inside that I didn't know I had. I journal just about every day. I journal, and but having something to look forward. When I was doing the workshop up in Terra Maria, I was like a little kid waiting for Santa Claus the next day. Couldn't sleep the whole night, just in anticipation of going over there and showing my stuff. I mean, I can do this viaje. You know, the dope was there just next door, bro. But I wasn't doing the dope. I was doing my jale.
That's pretty amazing.
It's what's called my pen, no? There are many things that are deep within my heart, and writing about these things lets me know that I am not the menace I have been stereotyped to be. As I write, my pen takes me on a spiritual, meditative journey. I have begun to heal from within my heart. This heart of mine holds many feelings, memories, failures, and successes, both past and present. My pen sometimes bleeds because I feel pain. Sometimes my pen cries because I feel hurt. Other times, my pen does nothing. All it wants is to be held and loved. Other times, my pen gets overwhelmed with excitement, and it writes so fast it can't understand what I just wrote. Sometimes this pen of mine sits in my hand and observes very carefully what I just wrote. My pen is the key to the lock of my heart. My pen cries and bleeds as it lets out its ink. My pen has become my friend in this lonely place. My pen takes me out of this place, and like any friends, any good friend, sometimes I don't like my pen because it brings out old painful memories. My pen prays with me when I feel confused, lonely, or lost. And as a true friend should do, my pen is aware of my faults and my gifts, and it lets me know when I'm right and when I am wrong. But the most important lesson my pen has taught me is that my pen is really me.
So you want to get to know me, really know what I'm all about, what's in my heart, the truth, no doubt. Well, criminals, what they call me. But don't be fooled. I'm still a little loco in my ways, but I'm calm, I'm cool. They say I'm a hustler, a cheat, a thief, and I lie. But I tell you the truth, I'm a soldier for life. I'm true to my raza and down for my people. I stay real to myself and my intentions are equal. I'm a brother, an uncle, a father, a son, a poet, a dreamer, a player, a thug. A voice in this world that just wants to be heard. Does that sound weird to you, and does it seem absurd? In this world that's been so cruel and unfair, full of pain and despair, I find myself saying this hustler's prayer. Lord, give me the strength to survive. Show me the way and keep me alive. As I hustle for money and I'm chasing that high. Even though my intentions are good, even though I f*** up. I'm sincere in my prayer. Lord, is it enough? Forgive me my sins with your hand of protection. Save my spirit and my soul as I fight my addiction. Don't let me die in my sickness or with this hustler's ambition. In this spiritual warfare, grant this hustler his wings to rise above all evil and to conquer all things. The system, the drogas, my rivals, my pain, help me to open my eyes and show me the way out of this game. Lord, hear me as I say this hustler's prayer. Now that I'm reading and writing more, a lot of it's coming out. Before, like you said, you have that mentality, you know, you rebel against authority and think everybody's always coming down on you. And through a lot of my writing, I've come out with a lot of stuff that I never even told anybody. But I think now I have the strength to bring it out. And this workshop's helped me out a lot. You know, on the streets, like I said, I always chase that dragon. You do whatever it takes to get it. You do whatever it takes to fix, whether I'm walking 3 miles in the snow without a coat. As long as I get wild, it doesn't matter. I'll do whatever it takes to get it. I said to myself when this class started, you know, I've always had an ambition as a hustler, as a criminal. That's what they call me, you know. That's my name, criminal, you know. But I said to myself, well, if I could do that, I could do this. And then I read your book, and I read other books like Run Baby Run by Nicky Cruz, and I'll Cry in the Barrio by Freddy Garcia. I read those stories and how they came up and they came out of it in the pintas, or prendidos, and drogas. And I said to myself, you know what, I had that same story. Maybe I didn't go through the same things they did, but I probably been through almost the same thing, if not worse. So I said to myself, if they could do it, why can't I do it? I can do it. You know, if I could chase that passion in the writing and the stuff I started, as much as I chased the Shiva and the pistol and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? All I want is something good to come out of my life.